Please welcome Aaron WALZ.
Thank you. All right, so I will be talking about how to make a good melody, basically. There are a lot of schools of thought about how to make a good melody, so by all means, I don't know, the be-all and end-all of that. I tend to think making a good melody is very important in game music. There are those who don't think that's important. There are a lot of game developers who don't even want that in their game, and that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's not part of this presentation, really. This isn't about like ambient music that doesn't disrupt the player. And when I say disrupt, I guess a melody should never be jarring or annoying or irritating, but it should definitely be noticeable. And my goal is always traversing, making it noticeable and hummable later and like insidious, but at the same time, not taking away from the gameplay, right? So why make a good melody? Players remember the experience. People, we all attach sound to memories. The game becomes more immersive, the game wins awards for sound and other awards that basically they wouldn't have won if it had crappy sound. Sales are boosted, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. You make more of a complete brand. If you have a really recognizable tune, right, then you just hum that tune and that's that game. And that's a good thing to have, a good brand. So my mission is that we all make better written music. Melodies, okay? Just some general things to remember, in my opinion, when I'm sitting down and writing a melody. Modern fancy samples never, ever replace a good melody. So I don't care how high definition your audio is and how great your loops sound. It's a bunch of crap to me if I don't have something to take away. And that's a strong opinion, but that's, hey, that's my opinion. So in other words, I draw from the past, present, and future. So I try to use some fancy stuff here and there. And sometimes I use totally retro 8-bit sounds. But regardless of whatever sound you're using that fits in the game you're writing for, it will be immensely, immensely better if you write something good. So no matter how much reverb you throw on a bad singer, they're still a bad singer. So like I said, it's a constant battle, command attention versus blend in, and I'm always grappling with this, with a lot of developers I work with. And of course, as audio people, our job is to make our clients happy. And you don't want to just be like a total, well, I'm just not going to write for you, Unless you're like a millionaire, then you can do that. But I think it is important to try to impart why it's useful to have a hummable melody, And all you have to do is just, say, well, hum the Super Mario Brothers tune. See, you know that one. Let's do that. Let's do that again for your game. So basically, I always try to make music that fulfills the need but also stands alone. So I want people to be able to play it in an orchestra or sing an a cappella version or, even just have a sampled, original soundtrack CD or digital download that someone can listen to and say, this is great music. If you can't do that, I think you haven't done your job right, honestly. Never throw anything away, okay? Because sometimes I'll write like stupid things and I don't like them at that moment. I'll just write something and I'm like, ugh, that's a bunch of crap. But then like a month later, it's like I'm not in a creative space and I don't know what to do and I can't think of a melody, and then I'll just go through all of my, my written little sketches, because I write like lots of just little sketches, but I also like use my phone and just record like I'll say la 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 la, And like, that's so useful when you're not creative. Because then it's amazing how once you get past that hump, you know, of like creating something from nothing, because that's the ultimate difficulty, I think, as a composer, you can get creative all of a sudden. It's like a defibrillator thing. I can't pronounce that word. You know, like gets you going. Bach never threw away any of his music. He had like little samples of stuff everywhere, and anyone who knows like Bach wrote so much music that you can't even buy like a complete collection of Bach. I'm sure you can, but you know, that's a ton of music. One thing I'm gonna talk about a lot with these tips, I have basically like 25 tips. They're real quick, just 25 tips. A lot of them have to do with limitation, okay? So they sound really like, I'm very German. I mean, my last name is WALZ. So it's like, you must only use a minor third in your composition, you know, and it seems like, why would you ever do that to yourself? You can't be creative, and it's not true. The more you limit yourself, the more creative you're going to get to try to meet those crazy, weird expectations you've set on yourself. And then finally, I know I'm just like an educator forever, but if you don't know solfege, you should learn it. And for those who don't know what solfege is, it's this like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And you don't have to learn the hand symbols. But honestly, if you like take some ear training and just learn, you know, those of you who are trained musicians, probably know ear training already, but if you don't and you're just, you know, more of a computery, music-y person, really, it helps so much because I hear it in my head, I hear it in solfege. It makes it a lot easier to write it out or remember it for later. You know, like I can sing, you know, you start going do, re, mi, so, la, so, mi, do, re, mi, re, do, re. You know, you can start doing that with like anything. It's kind of sick. And the Kodai system is a rhythmic system. It's like called takadimi. So it's like taka, 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 takadimi, 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 ta, mi ta, mi ta, mi ta, takita, takita, takita. And it sounds all technical and weird, but like you start to just see rhythm as units, and rhythm is such an important part of melody. Okay, so melody is not just pitch. So anyway, I just preached a lot. I'm sorry. I'm very redundant. I'm a redundant person, but okay. So here are my tips. The first one is use weird scales. So everyone uses like major scales and minor scales, like happy, sad, but use like Dorian mode and Phrygian mode. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means at all you have to do is sit down at a piano, and instead of starting at C, like everyone who doesn't know the piano very well does, and just goes like, you know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Instead of that, you start on D, and you go to D. And in solfege, it would be re, do, re, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re. So it's like a totally different scale, right? And like Phrygian is you start on mi, which on a piano is starting on E. So do, re, mi. Mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, mi. So it focuses on the third of the scale. And basically it's how many, you know, the scale steps, how many are half steps and whole steps. And so you can study this and look it up really easily. I'm not gonna go through every mode, but there's a lot. And you can make up your own too that don't have names because they haven't named all of them. So like this is a piece that I did that works in Phrygian mode. And I just forced myself. I said, I'm writing this piece in Phrygian mode. Mi, re, mi. So, you know, you can just force yourself. I would have never written that otherwise. I mean, it's very simple, but it's like something I would have never written if I hadn't done that. So that's a good tip. Another one is use weird meters, okay? So everyone writes in like 4/4 mostly and 3/4, because 4/4 is like the pop music, you know, every pop song practically is written in 4/4. 3/4 is like the waltz time, you know. So write in like 5/4, which some cultures use 5/4 quite frequently, but use weirder ones than that, like 7/8 and things like that. And not only that, don't use the same meter for the whole song. So just throw a random bar of some weird meter in. So like this is a song I love from Suikoden, if there's any RPG nerds out there. It's in 7, so I like it. So that creates this weird, like leaping, kind of thing, and it's fun. And it's different, because you know what? Like, I've heard people's collections, they send me demo reels and stuff, and everything is in 4/4, and it's so boring, So it's an opportunity to be weird. Steps and leaps. Know your steps and leaps. They're like your nuts and bolts. Know when to use each and why. So in any melody, mostly melodies are stepwise, which means, do, re, mi, re, do, ti, la, so, la, ti, do, re, do, right? And that's fine. I didn't leap once. And that's good. You don't want to leap too many times, usually, because the melody is weird that way. It's like, do, so, fa, ti, so, re, so, do. That's not really a melody. It's like a chord progression or something else. So, know why and when to use each, but play with it. Realize how you write, because it's amazing how you can hear someone's style, and they're very stepwise or something, and then just force yourself to do something weird. And when you become conscious of it, that's the only way you can write differently. So, yeah, and there's a bunch of counterpoint terms in there, but passing tones, neighbor tones, escape tones, they're things, like you're harmonically, if you're playing like a C major chord, passing tone is when you go like C, D, E. So you're going from one of the primary notes to another one. So that's going to be stepwise. You're not going to jump around leaps outside of that chord, usually. I mean, there's always exceptions. You can be weird, but... So that's that. Use suspensions, anticipations, retardations. What are those things? Non-chordal notes on important beats. Okay. I wish I had like a piano. I mean, there's this, but it has like full of samples and weird stuff. So it's going to be like sarsaparilla or whatever it said. So you'll hear later. It's really awesome. So if you can just imagine, like, do we have any singers here? Any singers? Raise your hand. Oh, come on. No more? I need 3 to make a chord. Oh, okay. All right. Ready? I just need you to project this. Do, mi, so. So keep going, keep going. Yeah, keep going. So, do, and this is do. So that kind of thing. Use that all over the place, and it's amazing how many times actually game developers have said, at 20 seconds, it sounds like you hit a wrong note or something like that. And it's like, this is where you have a moment to educate your game developer. Because again, we don't want to be divas, and we don't want to go the other way, and we don't want to just please them and make everything really awful and boring and chordal. So you have to educate them, like what that is and why, and maybe send them an example of music that uses that very effectively. Or maybe you're just not doing it well. I don't know, but it is important, I think, to kind of educate. Okay, so then the other tip I have on this page is use what we call a bridge in a piece. So you want to have an A section of your piece, a B section, and ouch, a C section. So, got that joke? That's bad. C section. Oh. So yeah. Especially in loops that are like a minute long or even 2 minutes, they're listening to this loop over and over again, right? And if you throw in a C section, it's like, oh, what's that? That's different, you know? And then even repeating the A section once maybe before looping, you know, it throws off, you know, Jesse was talking about good ways to loop, and part of it is compositionally. Instead of going A, B, C, loop, A, B, C, loop, A, B, C. Go A prime, B prime, C, B, A prime, B prime, you know, play around with that. But have 3 different distinct sections, if you can. This is a tip I use all the time. It's called singing the words. And rhythm of speech is very natural, and it's different in every language. But I think rhythm is more important than pitch, okay? So if I sing a song really, really horribly, like da 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 da. Like, I didn't hit like any of those notes, but you all know what song that is, right? It's the rhythm. That's what matters. So this is a piece I did for a client, and okay, she said, I want this is an ice castle. I want it to be splendid, beautiful, and cold. And I couldn't think of a melody. So I looked at pictures of like Swedish ice castles and all that, and I was like, I just am not hearing this. I'm just hearing snowstorms. So I just went, splendid, beautiful, and cold is the castle. You get the idea. So it's an amazing way of coming up with the melody. Just throw some words in there. Keys. I talked about scales a little bit. Now I'm talking about keys, right? There aren't that many keys, really. So get to know them. Play with them. Don't play in C all the time. Don't play in F sharp. I know it's fun. It has all the black keys. It's really easy. Well, at least on a piano. I mean, I know like a flutist doesn't want to play that, but you know, just mess around. Like, you know what I did? I'm really nerdy, but I took all my songs and made a spreadsheet of what keys they're in, because I wanted to make sure my distribution was like a healthy distribution. You know, there are certain keys that I like more than others, but I want to make sure I challenge myself. So I discovered like, oh, I don't write anything in B major. Ugh, hate B major. Yeah. So anyway, I decided I'm gonna play something in B major. Now, transposing it to a different key after you play it in a certain key might work, but really your mindset is totally different, especially if you're on a piano and your fingers go to a certain place. It's going to be totally different if you force yourself to play in a different key. So these are some things I pulled off online, like funny analysis of different keys. So C major is shown as pure, innocence, simple, naive. D major is the key of triumph, marches, heavenly rejoicing. And there are a lot of pieces that are just like that. A flat minor, heart squeezed until it chokes, wailing lament. F minor, funereal, groans of misery. B major, strongly colored, announcing wild passions. So play with your keys. Range, tips for using range. Limit yourself to a certain range or intervals. I don't want to take the time to play this clip, but basically, I sometimes force myself, like I'm only going to compose something using whole step, stepwise motion or minor thirds, and that's it. And well, it's kind of a weird thing, so I guess I'll play it. So this piece uses only major seconds and minor thirds, quarterly and melodically. Okay, so it kind of ends up as one long diminished, arpeggio, but not completely because again, there's those Hall steps thrown in, so it starts doing basically, a different sequence of diminished thirds. So that's that. So what do you write first? Who writes just like chords first, like chord harmonic structure, chord changes? No one. Okay. Who makes just the rhythm first? No one. Who just sings a melody? Okay. Who doesn't do any of those things? What else is there? All of the above. What? Oh, developer. So you don't make melodies. That's fine. Sorry for what I said about developers earlier. I'm a good person, I swear. So, okay, you saw that nobody here uses rhythms or chords, or maybe you all do a little bit of each, but you saw clearly melody was first. Do something different, because you're gonna get something different. Just go, I'm gonna compose a melody like this. Just do that, and write a melody to that. You'll write a melody you've never written before. Free writes, quick sketches. This kind of talks about the Bach thing I mentioned. I love coming up with bulk ideas, so I have to write, something about a jellyfish. I pick weird animals, don't I? Unicorn is weirder than jellyfish, though. So I'll write like just 10 different sketches on a jellyfish. I'll be like, do, 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 do. That's Star Trek. Do, 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 do. That's it. Okay, that's done. And I'll do that 9 times. And then I'll use one and I'll save the rest. Because again, for a rainy day, it's useful when you can't think of anything. Listening to others' work. Yeah, that's obvious. Do it if you don't. Listen to everything. I listen to like everything from African music, Middle Eastern music, Brazilian jazz, heavy metal, video game music from the 80s, game music from casual games now. Just expand your mind. It's really important. If you don't spend at least $20 on iTunes or Amazon or whatever you use a month, you're not listening to enough music. And I certainly hope you all purchase it, right? Karma. Dreaming, journals. I keep a journal by my bed because I dream melodies sometimes, and I write them down. And I record, like I said, on my phone. Really, it's gone, right? How many times have you thought of a melody and like, oh, I'll remember that, and you get down to the studio and you're like, oh, God damn it, all I can hear is Star Trek now. Do, 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 do. Earl Grey, hot. So playing music quietly. This is a really fun tip that someone taught me. If you play someone else's song, whatever it is, really quietly, like on one volume setting, like far away, you'll start hearing something that's not there and you'll write your own thing. So play a similar in style piece to what if you're trying to write a fugue or something, listen to a fugue, but like really, really quietly. And you won't copy it. You'll write something in a similar mood, but like your ear is amazingly powerful and it will make things up. Capitalize all your stickiness, your motives. Wait a day after you write a song and see if you can hum it. And if I can't hum it, if it's supposed to be a title track, I don't use it. Just plain and simple. I use it for something else, but not for a, So the Snap, Crackle, Pop, Rice Krispies, or haven't you driven a Ford lately, or meow, 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 meow. All of these things. The Oscar Mayer Wiener. You can sing these songs like they're successful at that, right? Experiment with new instruments. If you've never played a guitar, pick up a guitar and just try to make a melody on it, because it'll really weird you out, So I'm a piano player, so it's like when I pick up a guitar, I'm like, random chord, pretty random chord, random chord. It's kind of fun. You're gonna make something that you don't normally make. buy new samples all the time. Buy crappy samples. It doesn't matter. You don't have to actually use them for the production at the end, but buy weird samples that have weird key switches and things, and just play with them. And say, my next piece will be written with this sample in it. You know, again, limitation, like force yourself. Okay, tempo. Don't just have a 120 beats per minute or whatever the default of your workstation is. Change the tempos. It's amazing how sometimes, again, I get like a demo reel and everything's between 90 beats per minute and like 130 beats per minute. Or some people write everything like techno, 130 to 160 or something like that. Write something with like 45 beats per minute or like 190 or something crazy. And again, vary it, vary the tempo, make tempo changes. Actually every track I make, almost all, I drag tempo, I just drag the tempo thing, the draw tempos all over the place. I don't want it to sound like a MIDI track. I want it to be, and of course before cadences, right? Just a little bit more, down, right? So mimic what it would happen naturally in a phrase, right? Retrograde and inversions are both things that usually software can do. Like I use Sonar. Any other Sonar users? No, you're like, I like Pro Tools. So they have retrograde and inversions in there. Retrograde is like, it takes the whole song and plays it backwards. It's amazing how you can write something that you would never have written, because you wouldn't have, and you can change some notes. It doesn't have to be totally strict, but I love to do that. I take something I'm not totally happy with and I reverse it, and then I just play with a couple notes, and it's really cool. Oh yeah, so this is, yeah. Oh, did I do that? Oh no, it's all good. So this is something I wrote and then I played backwards. Yeah, weird melody. It's also a 12-tone row, which is another whole topic. I thought I had that clip, but I didn't. Oh, that's too bad, because I have that. No, I didn't put it in. Anyway, yeah, that's played by a real musician, so they had to like read that. Yeah, and that's actually someone pitsing. Yeah, all weird backwards. So 12-tone row is another thing I like to use, where you use all 12 notes of a chromatic scale in any order, but you must not repeat one, and you must use all of them. Yeah. So that's what that is, except it's also backwards. So again, it's weird. And it was this world of witches and like demented people and like, rah. I don't have anything against witches. That's not what I mean. But in a fantasy sense. Yeah, so it was just an interesting way to get that melody. Inversions are where you take all the intervals and like invert them. So like da 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 becomes da 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 da, that kind of thing. And it does it for you. You don't have to do this manually. So it's just something to play with. See if your software can do that. Swing versus not swing. Swung versus not swing. Right? It's a da 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 versus da 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 da. Right? Jazzy tune. So I use quantize sometimes, and I tell it to like swing it in a piece that normally I would not swing it, and it's amazing weird rhythms and fun little sounds you can get. And also I've taken things that are swung and I've unswung them so they get real straight. It's something fun to do. And then write somewhere different than you usually do, Don't sit in your office at the computer. Go outside, write at a cafe, bring your laptop and headphones. Write, anywhere really, anywhere, at the conference, on the bus. Just get out of your normal environment and you'll come up with something you don't normally. 5 more. Counterpoint, no, not needlepoint. Ha 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 ha. Do you know what counterpoint is at all? Okay, some of you do, some of you don't. If you don't, again, get a book, read about counterpoint. It'll tell you all about suspensions. And counterpoint is basically the integration of more than one melody, okay? And they go together well, right? They don't clash. I use it all the time in almost every song that I write. I don't have one melody. So more than one melody creates a complex melody, you know? And it's gonna make your game sound much better. But you have to know the rules. There are a lot of rules, like if you have two melodies and you know, you have one that's here and one that's a fifth up, you can't go both up one step at a time. It's called parallel fifths, and it's evil. But it's okay if you're like writing like a real medieval sound. So sometimes there's, you know, but counterpoint was really after medieval anyway, so they didn't follow the rules. Know where the scale steps are and where they belong, you know, where they long to go. T, do, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna go like, mi, re, do, ti. It's like, finish that, right? And the amen, you know, the fa, mi, that whole like 4-1 sound, right? And so because of rules of harmony, these steps long to go a certain place. Now here's the tricky part, or the fun part. Go where people don't expect them to go. So don't resolve them. Hold the resolution. So this is a piece I like that does that. First time it went somewhere else. The second time, finally you get it. And you can even hold it off longer depending on how long the loop is. So that's an awesome way of keeping the tension, and melody's all about tension and release. And you don't want to release too early, basically. So change up your methods of composition. So like I said, if you normally use a keyboard, use a guitar. If you never use a mic, use a mic, you know, sing a melody, just sing into your system, and then you can replace it later if you're not a singer. Use the mouse, just, you know, click it all in there in the track. Write it out manually and then plug it in later. Because every system that I use, I create something totally different. And for some games, I'll use only one method. And then for another, you know, client, I'll only use another method. And that guarantees I have that similar style for different games, that I'm not sounding the same for every project that I'm working on, because I don't want to sound the same. Musical onomatopoeia. So this gets into that unicorn thing, but basically, you know, if you're writing something that's involved like horses, you know, galloping by, use hoof-type sounds, you know, not necessarily samples of hooves, but use a sample that sounds like it could duck, 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 you know. One piece, it was in the middle of the night, and I used the wiro, you know, and it sounds like frogs in the background. But it's not actually frogs, you know, it's just a suggestion. Flutters of birds, you know, whooshes of wind, but not actual whooshes of wind. You know, just play with instruments, and you know, maybe a quick, you know, gliss or something will sound, you know, like a whoosh, you know, etc. And then finally, oh yeah, there's a 12-tone row. Yay, it is here. So you all remember the piece that I played backwards? Well, this is that piece forwards. forward melody because it's 12-tone row. But, you know, backwards, it got really... Not going to play the whole clip, but you get the idea. It's just the same thing, but I didn't just reverse a loop. It's written music that I had them play it forward and backward. So in conclusion, we discussed why melody matters. We went over general mindsets and goals for writing. I gave you 25 tips. I'm sure some of them seem like obvious to you, and hopefully some of them were something new. I want you to all go write some good melodies, and there's no excuse for dull filler. You lazy bum. Thank you.